Hey,
Hey, Xander. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming to my studio in the basement of our house. Xander's my son. He's taping for me today, and I want to say hi to all those kids out there who are at home from school. I know today there are 30 million of you across the United States home from school, so I'm hoping to provide some art classes for you at home that you can do with very simple materials. So join in with me today. Let me just say, I want to reintroduce myself. My name is Carrie Patterson. I'm a professor at St. Mary's College of Maryland. Shout out to our public St. Mary's College of Maryland down in St. Mary's City. I teach drawing and painting there and community arts. Shout out to all my students who are out there. And I also own an art studio in Leonardtown where people come to my studio and make art on Fridays and Sundays. So hi to all my students out there who are home and can't come to the studio. We live in Tacoma Park, Maryland, which is about 2 hours away from where I teach, and you are in my basement in Tacoma Park where we're kicking it old school and just drawing and painting with whatever kind of material we have around. So I am so happy you're here with me, and I want to recap what Lesson 1 was all about before we start Lesson 2. All right, so let's talk about what we discussed in Lesson 1. Do you guys remember how I was saying it's important to find a creative space in your house? It doesn't matter where it is. It could be in maybe your bedroom or in the corner between your wall and your bed maybe, or you can make like a little fort, or maybe you've got a basement or a larger room in your house that you can kind of claim as your own. I think this is super important in general, but certainly during a pandemic to have a little creative space to like have an outlet away from your siblings, away from your parents, and to sort of say, hey, this is who I am, this is my space, and just kind of own your expressiveness in that space. So I have things around me that I really love in my space. I have this sculpture over here that my dad made. I got some supplies that I scrounged up. I've got some old books that I like to use. I've got a painting by a former student on my back wall, Shannon Rafferty, and another painting over there by Adrian Dixon. And, you know, I got what I need to get started. So find a creative space. You can even make like a little sign that says, this is your studio. I might do that tomorrow. I don't have that today. And yeah, so that's step number 1. Step number 2 is to get some paper and a pencil. And I encourage everybody just to use whatever you've got on hand at home. And parents, if you have the ability to donate some papers and pencils to drop-off centers that are giving out food for kids at schools, I highly recommend you doing that, or even just your neighbors. Leave some art supplies on neighbors' doors. This is a community effort to give everybody some art education, but also some outlets during this very stressful time. Okay, so we started drawing bunnies, because I really like bunnies. And a couple lessons in, we're still going to be talking about bunnies. We talked about a very famous bunny, Bugs Bunny, right? And I told you the trick about turning your work upside down when you're copying something that is flat. Okay, that will help you see the positive and negative shapes. And this is not just a one-time thing. You can look for cartoon characters of animals that are really, you know, people that are really well known, that are illustrators that are really well known, to try to get better at how they reduce what they see to simple lines and simple shapes. In fact, I wanted to share with you that Mo Williams has a lunchtime doodle thing going on at the Kennedy Center right now. So you can tune in to the illustrator Mo Williams will help you learn how to do the types of illustrations that he makes. So there's lots of resources out there to try. So the first one is find some famous animals that are cartoon-like and try to draw them by flipping it upside down, just like we did. Okay, so you can see the basic shapes. So Bugs Bunny, we talked about yesterday, was sort of like kind of mischievous. You know, his expression is like, you know, he's up to something. And today we're going to talk about a bunny that's much more philosophical and much more serious in his take on life. We're going to talk about Peter Rabbit. Do you know who Peter Rabbit is? This is Peter Rabbit. Peter Rabbit was invented or drawn by Beatrix Potter, an amazing illustrator, if you are not aware of who she is. She liked to draw animals and things around her. So she was very aware of nature. She looked out to nature to get her ideas, and she made relationships with animals and imagined what they would feel like. And so Peter Rabbit is an example of that. So let's try to draw Peter Rabbit together.
One.
Okay, so for lesson 2, let's pick up where we left off. We drew Bugs Bunny last time. Today we're going to draw Beatrix Potter's Peter Rabbit. And we're going to start off. I have switched the camera view so that you can see what I'm drawing and follow along. And I have left Peter Rabbit upside down, okay? And just for your own reference, you can check out Beatrix Potter on your own after the lesson's over. She was alive 1866 to 1943. And she was an amazing illustrator, and her main source of inspiration for all of her illustrations came from nature and came from her backyard, directly where she lived and things that she observed. So if you think, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do all week or all month, you can just say, hey, what's going on in my backyard? Because I guarantee you, even if you're in an urban area, there's some animals or birds or pigeons flying around. So find some animals to look at, and you can imagine what they're thinking and maybe try to draw those. All right, so let's start by drawing upside down. I'm going to start very simply with the scaffold of my drawing underneath. I'm holding my pencil really lightly, and I found an oval in Peter's body. Look at that. And his head is not exactly an oval, but it's ovular. So I'm just sort of, I love that word, ovular. Not sure that's a real word. I might have made that up, but that is his head, right? And I'm looking closely at those negative shapes, these empty shapes around the body, to give me my ideas, to sort of translate what I'm seeing. So I'm finding more ovals. And we already know from yesterday, from lesson 1, that ovals are popular. Well, at least with Bugs Bunny and Peter Rabbit, they're popular. Okay, so I have a basic idea of my drawing underneath. And now I'm going to start to make it more specific. And I'm going to look at these shapes around the bunny. So the exterior edge. And I want to make sure my shapes kind of mimic what I'm seeing on Beatrix Potter's illustration. Some people ask me why I look at other artists and why I think it's important that students look at other artists. Well, it's like reading a good book. You can't write well if you don't read other people's books. So I really like looking at other artwork and other illustrations by people who do their job really, really well. That's why I think it's pretty cool that Mo Williams is offering classes online too. Okay, so there we go. And you can follow along and do that too, to the best of your ability. Know that what you do is not going to be the same as what somebody else does, just like mine is not going to be exactly the same. So we're not headed for perfection. We're just trying to use our eyes and get the shape the best that we can. Okay. Oh, look at that. Oh no, I messed up. Hold on, let me erase that. Sometimes making a little noise like, oh my goodness, helps you find the shape. That's our, I don't know, that must be our music situation going on. Xander, how's that look?
Freaking out a little bit, but it's all good. And the drawing looks very good.
Xander would be drawing with me, but he is recording because we've already done this several times and it didn't record. So now we're trying it again. Whoop, not too far out. All right, so you can see I'm using my eraser a lot. So if anybody tells you a real artist doesn't use their eraser, I don't buy that. We use our eraser as a secondary tool. We kind of carve out the shapes. Oh, and I see Peter Rabbit has an oval right here for his nose. Okay. Maybe in doing so, Xander, maybe in looking really closely at his face, we'll figure out why he's philosophical.
That's a good point.
All right, I think we have enough information to turn him right side up. So let's try to turn him right side up and see what he looks like. Oh my goodness, he's so cute. All right. So let's see. Oh, that's my... There. Okay. So what else do I need to do here? Let's look a little bit more closely. I don't really see his mouth. His nose isn't quite that big, so let's kind of give it a little shading there and there. Some more whiskers here. And don't you think, if this was in color, I think his coat would be blue. So why don't we make his coat blue? Shall we do that? Or actually, I'm going to try purple. I like purple. Ooh, that's a dark purple. That was a little too dark. Let's see what I can do here. All right. So maybe if you have something that you can color in his coat, that'll help you see what kind of personality and character this Peter Rabbit has. Okay, now I'm going to show you a couple things here. One is our Bugs Bunny from last time, and two, the first Peter Rabbit I did in the first take. Can we see all these in the frame?
Oh yeah, you good?
All right, so let's just look at these rabbits. So first of all, our two Peters over here, what makes them more philosophical and this one more mischievous? Do you think maybe it's the expression, Xander?
Possibly.
It's the big teeth, maybe?
Maybe.
It's the smile that's super large for the head?
Could be.
And the irregular twist to the ears up here?
Possibly.
And then maybe it's this eyebrow, right? The eyebrow is lifting up and looking kind of surprised, like, what's going on here? Come on and play with me. Let's get involved. Let's get down to, let's do something funky. Okay, but these two bunnies are not doing that, right?
No.
No, they're a little bit more philosophical. Their eyes may be just a little bit worried. They may be saying, I really want to jump in that water and I really want to take a swim, but I think I'm going to sit back on my lounge chair and watch other people swim first to make sure it's safe. So you can see my first bunny looks different than my second bunny. So even though I'm looking at the same source, I can still add my own twist to it. Now, if you want to... Okay, so now I have these three bunnies that I've drawn, and I used that source of the original illustration by Beatrix Potter. But now I'm going to put that away, and I'm not going to look at that anymore. And I have these three awesome drawings, and I'm going to make my own drawing out of them. So if you have a pair of scissors, you can actually cut out your bunnies. If you don't have scissors, you can maybe tape these together and make your own larger drawing. But I'm going to try to cut them out real quick. So, and you guys can watch me do this, or you can cut it out yourself as I am cutting them out. And you can see, I know cutting is not something, you know, most people are like, okay, I know how to cut, but with art, you want to kind of turn your paper, not your tool, but the paper. And this is very similar to soldering, or not soldering, I'm sorry, like using a a very thin saw blade when you're cutting metal. But you want to turn your paper like that. So I have my bunny, first bunny, cut out, and I have my empty space. Now I'm going to take my second bunny, and I'm going to cut out my second bunny. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to try to imagine what scene am I going to put my bunnies in. Are they in maybe a city? Are they like in an apartment? Are they about to eat chocolate cake? Something that I really like to do. Are they in a rural pasture somewhere where they're building a new house for themselves? Could Bugs Bunny be trying to invite them to go fishing in the rural area? I don't know. I mean, you can imagine all sorts of scenes for your bunnies, I'm sure. So now I have two bunnies. And I'm going to cut out Bugs over here. The point is like, I try to encourage all the students that come to my studio, and even my college students as well, to look at things that have already been created and use them as source material, but then change them and use your imagination. So artists use a lot of tools in their toolbox. They use skills that they have, but they also have to rely on their imagination and thinking about how things might be in a different, given different circumstances. So we're going to make a different circumstance for our bunnies. All right. So I've got 3 bunnies, and I'm grabbing a larger piece of paper. So if you have access to a larger piece of paper, that's great. If you don't, you can tape 2 pieces of paper together. And I'm just going to save time and use this larger piece of paper. And I'm going to put my 2 bunnies, I might have to turn it this way. Oh, my bunnies are very large. I might need 2 pieces of paper. Okay, I'm going to get 2 pieces of paper, and I'm going to attach on the back with a piece of tape. You can use any kind of tape. I've got this leftover tape in my bag, which is painter's tape. I'm just going to attach this on the back so I have a larger piece of paper. Turn it over. And I think I want to imagine my 2 bunnies. I want to imagine this guy at a table. So, and I don't have any glue, so I'm just going to use some tape to tape him down. And then I am going to draw a tabletop. So I'm going to imagine that he is sitting at this table, and these are his paws. And I'm going to imagine, I hope you can see this, I'm going to imagine that there's a big, giant cupcake and I'm sure you all can imagine all sorts of sweet treats on a table with sprinkles on the table. So there's my cupcake on the table. Then I'm going to imagine these 2 bunnies on either side of Peter, because first of all, they're like, oh, I don't know if we should eat that whole cupcake. And secondly, they're like, oh, I'm not sure. I think Peter Rabbit's going to eat the whole cupcake before we get any. They're worried bunnies. They're worried about how things are going, and they want a little bit of the cupcake, but they also are worried that there might not be any more cupcakes for anybody else. So there's the start of my drawing. Now you guys can take your drawing as and make it as complicated as you want to make it. But right now I have the basis for my drawing, and I can add color and crayon, and I hope you do the same thing. So check back with me for lesson 3 tomorrow at 11 o'clock, And we will look at three-dimensional bunnies, like this one right here, and I'll give you some tips and tricks on how to draw from three-dimensional bunnies. Okay? Have a great day.
Hey guys, just a quick note from Carrie's team. For the parents, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and to check out her business, The Yellow Line, at theyellowline.com. It helps us keep these videos free. And for the kids, I know, she kept calling Bugs Bunny Peter. Give her a break.